Welcome once again. And I think most of you were there throughout the meditation. But I'll still add, I'm speaking right now from Vrindavan, and it's considered one of the holiest cities in India, in the world. It's a beautiful place. And we have a wonderful work over here called Paramhans Yogananda Public Charitable Trust. This actually easily could be the world's biggest widow welfare work being done by any one organization. And it is such a blessing that it is in Master's name, it is in his spirit. And I'll tell you a few stories about this work. And then I'll request Blazy to post a link about this work so all of you can get familiar with it. And then, of course, we'll quickly jump onto the subject for today, the verse from chapter 16 of the Bhagavad Gita, the first verse over there. That we are all here, friends, trying to become more spiritual. Yesterday, I was meeting a friend who was with me in college. We were meeting after 2005. So yeah, 16 years later. And it was just nice. It's nice. He's a wonderful specialist. I have a little, I don't know if some of you are noticing, I'm growing a little bald over here. So I had gone to see him, and it turned out, as I was suspecting, my baldness was not related to age. And not related to stress. It was related to a simple infection I had. It's a fungal infection. So anyway, life runs on certain parallels. And we may have a problem. We may have that problem for a very long time. But if you go to the expert, the problem is solved just like that. My friend took a torch. He looked at my head, and I said, Rajat, you have to see this part of my head. I can't see it. So he looked. He said, were you in a rural area? I said, yes, for many years. I said, I had long hair. I would do gardening and lift mud and cow dung and whatnot. And so he said, yeah, you have a persistent infection, and apply this cream and you will be fine. Your hair will also come back. There's no scarring. I was like, okay, for 4 years, I was ignoring this problem. And suddenly the solution is simple. Similarly, we come on the spiritual path. We're trying to become happier. We want to expand our consciousness, our awareness. We want to get rid of the ego. We come to know that we have to find God, and you say, okay, the masters are all saying you should find God. I want to find God. Then we get a good book, we get a scripture, we find a guru. He gives us, or she gives us, tools and techniques and blessings and their good karma, their grace. And suddenly, a very, very, very long time problem seems to as if it was never there. From the moment we start applying, you might say, that spiritual cream, our hair comes back, our smriti comes back, our joy starts coming back. We say, hey, this feels right. I'm experiencing what all the saints and masters and pilgrims have experienced across time, across cultures, religions. So there are parallels. So anyway, here we are, and I was telling you about this work. This is a beautiful work over here. Some years ago, a very elderly lady, and we can get very helpless. Imagine you're in your 80s, you have been thrown out of house. For whatever reason, you have forgotten the life skill you had. Many times we don't have that. People could be totally illiterate. You have served people all your life. You expect them to take care, but somebody's thrown you out. Who helps you? And you say, no, there's nobody to help me. And so there was a lady, she had this huge wound on her back. And she was getting weaker and weaker. It was a tumor. She was getting weaker because of that. It got infected. She was on the road, totally by herself, homeless. And suddenly, a young man comes to her. And he says, why are you lying down on this ground over here? You should get up and get yourself treated. And she said, Baba, I can't even get up. I have no strength. I have no money. I have no relative. Who will treat me? Where should I go? He said, you should go to Paramhans Yogananda Trust. And she said, who are they? So, and how will I call them? How will I go there? He says, don't worry, I'll call them. They'll take you. And he clapped his hands 2-3 times. And a rickshaw came. And he said, take this mother to the hospital. And people took her. And she thanked him. And when she went to the hospital, she was taken care of by a team of people in the rickshaw, in the hospital. Her tumor was removed. She was taken to a house, given clean clothes, a room, a cot of her own, food and medicine. And when she was recovering and she started coming back to consciousness after surgery, somebody asked her, she said, I was sent here by a man. And they said, who? She said, I don't know. But as she was looking around, she saw the picture of Paramhans Yoganandaji on the wall. And she said, this man called the rickshaw. She said, this man, young man, clapped his hands and a rickshaw came. This happened just a few years ago. And today I heard another beautiful story, heartbreaking. And you sometimes wonder in this world of duality, if only God would twist our arm. Somebody once had a dream that Divine Mother was twisting my arm. And she was twisting and twisting and twisting. And this person said, oh, stop, his hand will come out. And she said, don't worry, he'll be fine. And I'm very grateful for that dream. For one, Divine Mother has taken an interest in cleaning up my karma. She's twisting my arm. She promised it will not come out. But if only God would stop us and not give us infinite free will, we would not create too much bad karma. Because in this world of duality, don't we always so often say, I want to do this? Well, that I has to be really pure, purified, in tune with God, in tune with one's guru, and only to live, to be in tune with God and guru. And then we can say, yes, this is what I want to do because I know what is God's will. But till we come to that point, friends, we go through huge ups and huge downs. Extreme success and crushing poverty, overabundance of friends and completely sometimes being lonely to the point like this lady said, I have no one, nothing, no place. And then look at the high point, look at the climax of her life. God himself comes in flesh and he says, how could you think you're alone? I'm here for you. And this Leela, this game, this show, this seemingly fairy tale story continues, and it happens most times. I think we don't even realize what's going on in front of our own eyes. How much do you trust your senses? Maybe Master and Babaji must have come in front of you and me, but we may not have realized it. So let me tell you another story I heard today of a lady who was from a very wealthy family. And as she became very old, there was an argument at home and her son threw her out. And again, Vrindavan has the story that for centuries, people have considered this to be the place of Lord Krishna, who many widows, especially in India, in the earlier times when being a widow was quite a stigma, they considered him then to be their husband. So they would come here and say, he will take care of us. And for centuries, this place has had, this small town of just 8 kilometers diameter has 5,000 temples in it. So you get taken care of for food and basic things. Even today, can you believe it? Some for 8 hours a day, or maybe it was 4 hours, some in the morning, some in the evening, they get 40 rupees. I mean, 40 rupees. So they go there to chant and get prasad, but 20 rupees, 40 rupees for hours of singing. So this place is a little bit still lost in another time zone, you might say. So anyway, this lady said, I've been thrown out. I have nobody else to go to. She came here. And our team saw her abandoned on the road, brought her home, and got in touch with her family. And her family initially said, her son said, we said, oh, she needs some surgery. She's not well. And he said, why are you telling me all this? Well, that's exactly how you create karma. And then you forget you ever behaved like that. And then karma comes back to you. And so we said, well, this is a life-threatening procedure. She's 85. We need family's consent. That's why we asked him. We said, I'm not part of that family. She's not part of our family. So we took the consent and the doctor went ahead. The surgery was good. She lived. She was healthy. But then again, we tried to get in touch with the family. And one day her son came. And this happened a few times. And finally, one time she was in hospital again. And we told her son, and he came and saw her. And this time he realized his mistake. And he apologized. And she had many homes. They're a very rich family. And she would tell people over here I am. She didn't feel bad. She said, this is my true home. She said, all my life I had many homes, many servants. But she said, when I needed help, you all helped me. This is my home, she said. And so when her son came that day, he said, Mother, I'm sorry, come home. And she said, well, I have found you and your love. I have found my spiritual family and home. And she said, son, I don't want anything. And I will not come back, not because I'm hurt, because this is my home. He took her blessings, he left. And 4 hours later, she left her body. Can you think of how life itself operates? How if we are not aware, that word consciousness means to be conscious of what's going on. Who are you? Who am I? Who is God? Why are we here? Why do we suffer? How can we reduce our suffering? How can we increase our good karma? Then, of course, to still think, will good karma alone be good? And you say, no. Karma is action and reaction. I want to go past karma. In the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, even good karma and good acts will not free you. You will be rich, perhaps, because richness brings certain comforts, a certain, perhaps, education, the ability to understand, comprehend. Renunciation is easier when you've tasted the material things of this world. So good karma may come, but you still have to want to find God. You have to say, I want to go to the source, enough of roaming. And to remind us of that, the masters come. I honestly sometimes think that we must have lost our mind many times in the past. At least it must be true for me, which is why I'm feeling this, because the spiritual path is really mind-boggling. You wonder, on one level it's so simple, on the other hand we just don't get it. And human mind has this ability to get lost in so many myriad ways. The reason for that is, friends, that Master said that, and I covered this topic a few weeks ago, that Satan does exist. He said Satan is a conscious force whose God-given job is to keep us in delusion, as if it was not enough to wander a little bit. God wants to test us more, but he calls the shots. We can't do anything about it except, accept that and fall in line. And Master says, when you understand what's really going on, then it's a very simple matter, and you wake up and you wake up other people. So anyway, I want to now read what I read in the beginning about those 3 qualities. And Krishna says, and Swami writes over here, that the goal of spiritual progress is, as has been repeatedly emphasized, the transcendence of ego consciousness in the realization that separateness from other selves and from the absolute self is the one great delusion from which all other delusions derive. And the Blessed Lord said, this is the verse, fearlessness, purity of heart, perseverance in the acquisition of wisdom and in the practice of meditation, and then many other 23 other qualities, he says, are the endowments of those who are divinely inclined. So let's just read these 3. Fearlessness, purity of heart, and perseverance. Now, this morning, I also met the team over here in the hospital which serves. By the way, this is the only hospital of Ramakrishna across India where they are able to serve because nobody's turned away for the lack of money. Nobody's turned away because a group of very generous devotees, Kriyabans from NCR, Delhi, Gurgaon, they contribute towards that. Nobody should be refused. In the last 6 years, they've been here. 70,000, oh no, 90,000 surgeries have been performed. 90,000. 500,000 people have been given doctors' consultations free of charge. Medicines and the bedside care by having an attendant with you all the time, 24/7 if you're in the hospital. I mean, families don't do that. The other day I was talking to a family and I was later telling friends, somebody's husband was coming to the airport. So I said, oh, so you may have to go now. She's like, no, he'll come, he'll take a cab. And we will both laugh. And then, but I was joking and telling my team, I said, I never let anybody take a cab. I mean, because, you know, it's a little cold, I feel. Now, taking a cab is all fine. But people don't go sometimes to the hospital, even when their relatives are there. I've been a doctor. I know, I've seen patients who were alone on the day of their surgery because their relatives are busy or things, whatever is going on. So anyway, I met with these people and I said, how was the pandemic? Last year I had promised them I'll come 4 times a year. And then 1 week after that, the pandemic and the different lockdowns came. And so finally, when we were meeting in this hospital where they were serving, they said, oh, sir, we've been very good. And I said, how was the pandemic? And, you know, they lost some friends, relatives. A very dear colleague succumbed to the COVID-19 infection. And so we were discussing all this. And I said, but, you know, here's the interesting thing. All of them were looking happy, brighter, and lighter. I went to different doctors, room to room. I meet them every year. They were looking brighter and lighter. And so, because it's a busy hospital, I would go in and they would just briefly introduce that he's come from Pune. And I would say, so I've come to thank you on behalf of everybody. Thank you for helping our people. Our people are happy. And they would say, many of them said, oh, I've retired now from medical practice and I'm here to serve people. I'm here as a doctor to serve people. A young Swami was saying, I'm here to serve people. Another person says, I'm here to serve people. And I was looking at them and I said, you think you're serving people, but you are the one who is getting brighter every year. We all know this. It's like Swami Vivekananda. He was helping somebody in a flood situation and this patient in his lap, he says, thank you for helping me. And Swami Vivekananda, and Vivek means wisdom, discrimination. And he said, it is you, it is I who should be thanking you for giving me an opportunity to serve you. And Master made it so much more clearer and sweeter also. He said, ultimately, all that's happening is God is helping God. Now, in the beginning, we don't realize ourselves as God or other people as God. We think, I'm helping you. Well, that is exactly how it starts. But then as we may not feel like serving. We may say, oh, this is and the staff was telling me that, sir, we were happy to serve. But in the beginning, nobody knew what this pandemic is about. So the police came to their house. The media came to their house. Their very good neighbors from many generations, in some cases, started blaming them, accusing them. Oh, you go to the hospital. You're going to bring this infection back into our neighborhood. Stay away from us. And all kinds of things. Nobody knew what they were talking. But you see, they were fearful. Fear, Sri Krishna is saying, comes from attachment. I have to protect myself. My ego must be protected at all costs. My life must be protected. My money, my property, all those things. To the degree you are protective about that little self, Swami says, you are not one with others. You are far from the state of oneness and yoga. Now we don't have to feel bad. As we grow, the spiritual path demands an active awareness, intention, and energy to overcome and again and again and again break those barriers. The teams that broke those barriers were the ones who were looking brighter and lighter and happier. Then they would say, in the pandemic, in the second wave, we were helping people left and right. People who had nobody, helping with their paperwork, helping with cremation and things like that. And the more I heard people say those stories, the more I saw they were looking brighter and happier. And I said, You were serving them and they were serving you. You have become more spiritual. And that is all we all want to become, because when we become more spiritual, we become more happy. We feel closer to God. So in the beginning, anytime we feel this fear factor is coming, try to analyze it, friends, which is why I was saying it takes time. Just that one factor of fear. What are you afraid of? If you're afraid, I have seen people who were afraid of the pandemic. I have to say, by God's grace, I didn't have that fear. Whenever it would come right there in the bud, you cut it and you release it and you say, Master, I'm happy to die. Are you afraid of dying? You know how many people have lived in this world before you and I came? How many more will come? This world is nothing but a stage. Life persists in the midst of death. But if we say, I'm afraid, I'm attached to my body, I'm attached to my people, I'm attached to my ego, then Master says fear will come, and he called it a demonic quality. Whereas when we release that attachment, he says you get closer to God and more energy, more prana flows through you. And he says you start feeling better. The other aspect was purity of heart. Let me read a line over here that Swami writes about purity of heart. Swami says, purity of heart comes when one has removed from his heart any feeling that is foreign to his true nature. Thus, purity begins by removing anything that nourishes the consciousness of ego. Anything that nourishes the consciousness of ego must be removed, Swami says. Now that requires energy. It's like a daily offering. It's like a daily giving up. It's a daily surrender. It's a daily recognition. And you say, Master, Guruji, through my kriya, through my breath, through my heart's attachments, I'm giving it up. And we don't need to feel hopeless about this, that my goodness, I've been working on this for 20 years, 5 years. I mean, in my case, I was telling my friend, I said, Rajat, all I'm trying to do is improve myself. I said, I've been on it for 13 years. I said, it feels like I left last week only from the hospital where we all were serving. I said, this thing just takes time. It's like, I said, but I know that I'm willing to keep practice. I said, that's the one thing I would take as a quality. And that's the third quality over here, perseverance. That you can't say, oh, I've been working on this for 3 months and I'm not changing. No, keep at it. It is so joyful when you start feeling the joy of self-discovery. Yes, there are challenges, but that's not who I am. I am a child of God. The desires that are coming in my heart, the fear that is coming, the attachment that is coming is foreign to me. If fear of death comes, I'm going to discuss that with God. Master, I'm not afraid to die. If fear of rejection from people comes, Master, and like these people, they were serving without any support from friends and family sometimes, with police threatening them, checking their papers. Who had proper paperwork? I mean, everything was closed, but they continued serving. That is how each person is tested. That is what is applying spirituality in daily life. When you're inwardly not feeling the willingness to meditate or reach out to others, give to others, to reach out at that time, that is applying the teachings. Swami writes over here, included above, thus purity begins by removing anything that nourishes the consciousness of ego. This includes, of course, all the motivations for fear that were listed above. Included also must be an absence of selfish or ulterior motive. A person who is pure of heart is guileless and never harbors the slightest wish to make use of anyone without his willing consent. He bears no malice towards others. Indeed, with such purity alone, he automatically manifests virtually all the spiritual qualities listed above. I mean, so on one level, the spiritual path is easy. If you and I are conscious and aware, and on the other hand, we say, oh my God, this looks like a hopeless. time-taking job and I feel too small. Like even Arjuna would many times say to Krishna, Krishna, this is too much. Can I simply stop fighting? Can I simply quit? I don't want to fight. I don't want to kill these qualities. They seem overwhelming and so anciently familiar. But Krishna, like a good friend, is reminding him again and again. And that brings us to the third quality of perseverance. What is perseverance? I once asked Maya Swami Seva, who was Swamiji's first secretary. She was very dear to Swami. She's staying at Ananda village. She rarely gives a discourse, but she was so dear to Swamiji that in his last will, he has given his astrological bangle blessed by Yogananda ji. He said, after I die, this should be given to Seva as a token of my appreciation for her help in helping start Ananda. So I was once asking Sevaji, and look, her name is Seva. What a beautiful thing, that to be able to offer divine service to other people. And even today, when people shift their homes, somebody has garden work, trucks are moving, Seva is the first person to show up. And she asks for boxes in her hands, which she can help move. And I was once asking her, I said, can you give me some qualities that help a person go through 50, 60 years on the spiritual path? I remember one of the 2, 3 things she mentioned. One of them was perseverance. She said in the end, she said, perseverance. She said, people think the path was easy for Master or Swamiji, or for somebody who has covered a certain distance. People think, oh, you have been staying in an ashram for 40, 50 years. She said, the path, when God really starts cleaning up your karma, she said, all you can do is make up your mind to persevere till the end. You don't know what tomorrow will bring, but whatever comes up, you say, Divine Mother, this has surprised me. I didn't know these things were hiding in me. I give it up to you. Clean me up. You have given me tools and techniques. You have given me friends who are supportive. You have given me the books which have outlined things so clearly. Give me the opportunity to meditate. Give me the opportunity to serve. Service ultimately is nothing but, friends, you may say, if you expect something out of service, then it's not really that pure. So our meditation, our prayers, our giving to others should be without any expectation. Now, you may say, well, that's not easy, but that will bring you the highest gift. Think of it that way. Think of all the people who I met today who were brighter. I didn't even see the recipients because those they served, they've gone wherever they went. I saw the people who year after year after year are serving in the midst of life and life-threatening challenges with very small salaries, with a big smile. And I have started noticing in my annual visits that they are the ones I know for sure who have a lot of grace around them. The senior Swamis, the emergency head today, he was telling me, he said, oh, I just see patients, but these people, he said, this boy who's showing you around, he was himself in the emergency twice, but he got up and he kept helping other people despite kidney stone attack pains in the pandemic. When you hear things, and I said, that's why Raja is looking bright. I said, Raja, just keep this up. And I learned this lesson again, that all I need to do is keep my daily service, my sadhana, my prayer, my understanding, my awareness awake. And each time a problem comes, just like I said, I got some infection. I don't know what this is, but my friend saw it. He said, oh, you got an infection. You need this cream. Similarly, you're sad. You need to give somebody happiness. You're not rich. You need to give somebody money. You are failing in health. You need to help somebody whose health is not good. Otherwise, life will take you to the point where you finally learn to empathize. This is all there is in karma. Master said, if you judge somebody, you will be put through those circumstances so that you overcome your judging quality. If you do not help people when you have the ability to help, he said, you will be put through that. So you learn what it is. So anyway, there's a lot I could share. Each aspect of my travel over here, my visit. Today I went to this very ancient old ashram where 5 very old ladies from 70s to mid 80s were staying. Little hovels they had without doors. They were paying monthly rents of 200 rupees over there. And one of them started cooking while we were having a conversation. And she threw some chilies, with some oil on some wood fire. And the dogs and pigs were howling and dancing and moving around right there. And I was like, this is amazing what's going on. I mean, this show is staggering, Divine Mother. But they were so happy. And I thought, well, here's a little women's monastery in the middle of this ancient abandoned ashram. These ladies living so simply, greeting each other with God's name. And I was telling them all, because somebody had knee pain, somebody had backache, one lady had sugar, and I was seeing them from the medical point of view. But wherever I went today, I noticed something. This is not at all an exaggeration. And I did not forget to tell them all. I said, your eyes are bright. I said, your eyes are bright. I said, I don't care about the body. I said, the body has to go one way or another. Illnesses will come, this one or that. I said, but you all are having very bright eyes. I said, keep that in mind. And then they would say, yes, that is Thakurji's grace. That is Krishna's grace on us. So let's keep that. Who cares what happens to the body? Who cares? If you care, do some serious introspection, take a few days seclusion. I asked one devotee who's been on the path for 15 years. Last month I sat with him. I said, I'm feeling, and I hope I'm wrong, but tell me, I said, are you afraid of dying? He said, yes. I said, you should do some thinking, brother. I said, you've been practicing Kriya for 15 years. I said, try to overcome. I said, at least intellectually don't be afraid. Fear may be there, but intellectually don't keep saying yes. I said, how long will you say yes? Death may come uninvited. So mentally, intellectually, we should not feel the lack. Oh, I don't have money. I don't have so many years in front of me. Be ready. Not to die. Be ready to live for God. If He says, do this, you say, okay, Lord. If He says, do that, you say, okay, Lord. That brings a lot of non-attachment. That brings fearlessness. That brings a lot of grace. Then we can say, I'm listening to God all the time because I have no personal agendas of mine. I have no wish list of my own. Hence, God's list is now my list. That is the way to freedom. That is what I saw in many people over here. And again, let me close with this. When we keep persevering that way, like Sri Krishna is saying, perseverance in the desire and the acquisition of wisdom. Then God, once you get one lesson, God tells you more and more and more. And then we reach the point where you say, God, I thought I am serving you or somebody out there, but now I realize you are flowing through me. You're giving me the thoughts, the feelings, and the energy to be able to serve. And who am I really serving in others? I'm serving God. That is why the wise ones, like Vivekananda, they would thank those who gave them the opportunity to serve. And at any point, if we feel that I don't know why I'm serving on this path, why I'm meditating, reignite that fire. And then the path suddenly becomes very clear, very simple once again.